Warning. The Maverick Marketer is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned. Prepare yourself for the no bullshit, zero fluff. Quick, dirty, and uncensored secrets for any serious coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker who wants to earn more money with less work and fewer headaches, without having to kiss ass or bend over backwards to please anyone. He's a relentless and fearless renegade who will stop at nothing to reveal the harsh, unforgiving, and brutal truth about what it really takes to succeed in this business. He's a guy people love to hate and hate to love. It's your host, Drew Edwards. The Maverick Marketer is Unleashed.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. This is Drew Edwards from EliteClientInteraction.com and MaverickMarketerUnleashed.com, and we are joined by our co-host Terry. Terry, how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Great to be here, Drew.
Good stuff. And our guest today is Julie Broad. Julie, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Good to have you on the show.
For those that don't know you, Julie, this gives an overview of what you do and a bit about your business, please.
Yeah, you bet. So first of all, I'm a West Coast Canadian, so pretty far away from where you guys are at right now. But I was born and raised in the prairie towns of Alberta, but now live on the coast. My background is really in sales, which is funny because I have never enjoyed sales and I'm a high introvert. But it was the best paying jobs that were out there, so I always took them.
Good for you.
And then I got into real estate, and real estate really for me was kind of my solution. I called it my Freedom 35 plan, because after working in a sales job for a year, I thought that this was going to be a really long life of working for somebody else and doing something that I was, found challenging. So I decided to find a way to make it so I didn't have to work for somebody else forever. And that's how I really got into real estate. And that was way back in 2001.
Awesome. It's interesting what you said there, just very quickly, that you're a high introvert, but you went into sales. I happen to think that introverts probably make better salespeople anyway, actually.
Well, I did become really, really good at it, but it's tough from the angle of a lot of the things that you do as a salesperson, networking and, getting out there, having to, really shine the spotlight on yourself in a lot of cases, which is the traditional sales training. It's not always the most effective way to do it, but traditional sales training is really built for the extroverts. But as you figure it out, I think you're right. I think introverts, because we tend to listen and we tend to have a little bit more reflection, I think that it can make for a great problem solver, which makes a great salesperson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Julie, I want to sort of ask you a few more specific questions about sales skills in general a bit later on. But before we get into that, can you tell us something about you that most people don't know? So an interesting or funny story that you perhaps haven't told anybody before.
Well, it's kind of related. I have told a few people before, but they might not be listening to your podcast. So when I actually first started in sales, just tying it all into the sales theme, I like I said, I was really, really nervous about things, and I had just gotten promoted, and it was my first head office kind of thing. So I'd gone from calling on stores. I was selling Huggies and Kleenex and Kotex, those kind of brands, and I was calling on stores. And now I'd been promoted where I had to go to the head office and get them to place the orders for their stores. And so I was quite nervous. And I worked from home, as a lot of sales reps in that industry do. And I'm just about to leave, and my boss calls and just says, "Hey, is everything going okay? Just want to make sure you're all set for this presentation." And so I talked to her for about 10 minutes, and then I was late. So I'm rushing around my apartment. I'm grabbing keys, grabbing everything I need. And I get out into my apartment door, lock the door, walk down the long hallway towards the stairwell to the parkade. And I get to the door, and I open the door, and I feel this rush of air. Way too much air, and I look down, and I look up, and I run down the hallway, get back into my apartment, and I find my pants. I was so nervous that I forgot to put my pants on.
Excellent, excellent. I tell you what, if you got into the call like that, they certainly would have remembered you if nothing else.
Yeah. It's not the look and not the memory I'm going for, but and thankfully I didn't run into anybody in the hallway because it's a really long hallway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent, great story. and you talked about the fact that you started off in sales and you got into property, and so is that what you do now? Is that what your business? Who do you help now, Julie?
Yeah, you bet. So, I mean, we still have a sizable portfolio, and I spent starting in 2008 when I eventually left my career. I started an education and training company to help other real estate investors. And 2008, by the way, was terrible timing. I don't know if it was quite as bad in the UK as it was in North America, but real estate markets crashed. The banks weren't lending money to anybody. And of course, that's when Lehman Brothers collapsed. So,
yeah, same problem here. Yeah.
Yeah, so my timing was brilliant when it came to leaving my job to focus on starting a real estate training and education company and continuing to grow our portfolio. But in a way, it was good, but it was really tough. The sentiment was not positive towards real estate. So I spent 5 or 6 years really focused on helping other investors make good decisions in real estate and helping them raise money. That was a big part of what we did to grow our portfolio to a sizable thing. Was we raised money from other people. And so I taught a lot of people how to raise money. And ultimately, that's how I got into what I do more now, which is around marketing and branding. Because again, I'm an introvert, and it's much easier when people come to me and ask me questions and say, hey, I hear you invest in real estate and you're looking for people with capital to invest. I have some money. It's so much easier than me going out and trying to find those people. So I really got into branding and marketing and becoming that expert that people approach and ask for help so that I didn't have to do that uncomfortable work. And that's really what I do now is I help entrepreneurs and real estate investors and people in the real estate industry become known for what they do so that the selling part really just happens naturally.
Yeah, it's a great position it's something that we advocate to position yourself so as trusted experts so that your prospects come to you wanting to buy from you more than you want to sell to them.
Exactly, and you choose, and then you're in a position where you choose because not everybody's a good fit, and when people are coming to you, you now have the opportunity to kind of filter and choose. So you're not even selling; you're deciding if you want to work with somebody.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh yes, that's music to our ears. That is, and that's the way it should be. Yeah.
So, Julie, something that you've mentioned, and we've had people on the show before that have really said the same thing, that introverts probably make better salespeople than extroverts. In your opinion, why is that?
Well, and I'm not necessarily. I think there's different advantages to different. I don't necessarily think an introvert's better than an extrovert, but I think the advantage that an introvert has is that we're not usually the first to speak. And this is generalizations, of course, but we tend to kind of take a step back and look at things and ask questions and understand the situation and reflect before we speak. And one of the challenges that a lot of extroverts in a sales role have is the minute somebody shows some excitement or interest in what they do, they start talking and they excitedly share all the details. But the problem with that is that you don't actually fully understand the person's situation. And you can also waste a lot of time selling to people who were just faking interest or just showing some interest, but they weren't ever actually going to be a buyer. So it's a little bit stronger of a position when you come into it and listen and learn before you say anything. And I think that's one of the key differences.
Yeah. And again, I think that we constantly repeat is that selling is not telling, because there is this perception that selling is about the gift of the gab, but it really isn't. As you rightly said, it is about listening to the client's needs. So that's a really interesting point there. Excellent.
Julie, you mentioned again as well that one thing that sort of happened during your career, you got really interested in marketing and branding because you like clients coming to you rather than you have to go out and chase them. For anyone listening to this, so Terry works with recruitment and search firm owners. I work with coaches, trainers, and consultants. What can we share with our clients that will help them achieve those results so that their clients are coming to them rather than them having to go out and chase them?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, it's all, in a way, it's always changing, and in another way, it's also dependent on who you are and what you like to do. If you're not a writer, then I'm not going to say go write articles for the pieces or for the publications in your industry. But if you do love to write, that's one opportunity. These days, if you can get yourself in front of video, that is really the best thing you can do. Is between YouTube and Facebook Live. Even Instagram's gotten into these instant video things. It's really getting in front of people on a regular basis with a consistent and clear message. That's how you become known. And it's one of those things where a lot of people get frustrated because they do it for a week or they do it for a month and they're not seeing results. But the real results come when you do it consistently for a year or even longer. Yeah. And you just plus you get better. You get better and better. Your first video is going to be your worst video. So you just keep going. But those are some of the things. And it's such a fantastic time that we live in, because this stuff, you can do it for so cheap and have professional quality video coming out. So I'm a big advocate. But if you're a writer, seek out publications and write. There's a lot of ways to get out in front of other people's audiences, and that showcases your expertise, which builds your brand.
That's a really good point then. And in terms of videos, if you put in video, how frequently should you be putting those videos in your opinion, on the different platforms out there, be it social media or whatever?
I'd aim for weekly at a minimum, personally. But it depends on you and what kind of messages you have. And if you're doing really short ones, do it more often. But if you have longer ones, like I tend to do 3 to 7 minute, more in-depth tip type videos. And I don't tend to do a lot of the Facebook Live. I do them, but I really focus on higher quality YouTube videos for the most part. And so those I try to put out weekly. But if I was doing Facebook Live, because it's such an instant thing, and right now that's really the smart place to be. It might not be as effective in 24 months, but Facebook's giving it all the preference right now. So I would do that 2 or 3 times a week. Basically, whenever you've got something cool that you want to share and show, I think that's a great opportunity to be doing Facebook Live, depending on your business.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And what sort of length should the length of the video be, let's say, for Facebook Live, in your opinion?
That part I don't know. I think it's still too new. There's not a lot of research on it yet. I think that coming up by the end of this year, we should have a good sense of it. But if it's too short, people won't have time to join you. That's the one thing I've noticed, is that if you're only on there for 2 minutes, nobody will be able to join you. And that's half the fun of Facebook Live, is people, you get a notification, Drew's on Facebook Live. So now you go to Drew's page and you get on his video. But that doesn't always happen instantly. So you kind of want to be on it for 5 or 6 minutes at least, just so that you can get a bit of audience, so you can get some interaction, because people comment and you can reply to their comments live. And it's really that social connection that I think is happening with it that's cool. So if you're too short, you're not going to get that unless you've told everybody you're going to be on live at a specific time, and then you're there and they're waiting for you.
Yeah, good point. That makes perfect sense. Excellent. Thanks for that, Julie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. And Julie, what about in your business? What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made in your business life, and more importantly, how did you overcome them?
Well, I've made a ton of mistakes, which I kind of think is actually the sign of people who are successful. They've actually made a lot of mistakes. I think it's one of those things. If you're not making mistakes, then you're probably not trying enough things, and you have to try things to create success. One of the mistakes, though, I was just reflecting on it earlier this week. It was about, in the first year or so of starting my education and training company, and I was interviewing an author who he was trying to exit out of his education and training company. He actually wanted to start a new venture. And so he said, can you help me make this exit? And so I negotiated what I thought was a really great deal, because it was basically going to give me access to his 35,000 readers, as well as his products, which would dramatically expand the products and services that I was currently offering, because I was still in a pretty new space. And it also gave him an income for 3 years when he didn't have to do anything while he was exiting. And then I worked for, 3 months, I think, and spent $5,000 that I didn't have at that time, because I was just starting up. and built up this membership site that was going to offer his services. And I did some surveys, and I talked to some existing clients, and I ran it by a few people, and everybody was super excited. They thought it was a great solution to a problem, and they thought that it was going to do really well. So when I launched, I was expecting 100 members to sign up within the first month.
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.
And so I got everything ready, and I launched, and 2 members signed up. So I thought, okay, there's something wrong with the copy, right? I'll blame the copy. So I hired a copywriter, and I paid him $1,500 and got him to redo my copy, and then I relaunched, and I had 1 person sign up.
Oh, God.
So I kept trying to repackage and redo things I spent about the first month really trying to fix it, because I still thought, the surveys had told me and all these things that it was going to be good, but ultimately nothing. I ended up making $1,000 in my first month, which meant I had, I think, less than 20 members sign up. And so it didn't matter what I did. It wasn't working. So I had to shut it down and refund the money and all that kind of thing. But the lesson that I learned from that, and I've learned from other situations as well, is surveys have their purpose in business. I think you do want to do surveys to listen to your customers, but when it comes to figuring out what people will actually buy, the only way to know is to put an offer in front of them and see if they pull out their credit card. And so I don't do surveys to find out if people buy the service anymore. I do a pre-sell. I'll pre-offer something. And it's funny because people always say, well, I'm not, my product's not ready. Look at Kickstarter. You guys are familiar with Kickstarter too in the UK, right?
No.
It's like it's a crowdsourced fundraising platform. And products that they just have a prototype, they'll advertise it there and try to get people to fund it. And ultimately you're basically pre-buying a product. And they raise millions and millions of dollars when they're not even going to be shipping a product for 12 to 18 months. So the fact of the matter is, if somebody really wants it, they're going to pull out their credit card. They're going to buy it. So don't worry about what the surveys say. Just pre-sell.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's any consolation, Julie, we've done the same thing. And now we just we'll launch it before we've actually got it. Yeah, exactly the same thing. Yeah.
But again, I think there's another lesson there, that what people tend to do is. So you're talking about product launches. I've seen people do it with, they ask their clients how they want to be marketed to. So they ask them, how many emails would you like to receive? How much sort of communication would you like from us? And the client always says sort of less than, they always say a small number. But the only thing that you should be really using to calculate whether marketing's working or not is not what your clients say, it's the, as you said, when they get the credit card out and actually buy from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good point there, Julie. That's the only thing you measure, the response to your thing. Just out of interest with that membership, I'm just interested. What was the size of the list that you were marketing to?
Between his list and mine, it was 40,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, it should not have bombed, but it's just one of those things where, and I think the real, without getting into what it was, I think one of the problems was that I was selling, like a vitamin kind of, it's not a vitamin, but the equivalent of a vitamin versus a painkiller. Mm-hmm. And it's a challenge, because if in this case, the people who did sign up, they had an immediate problem. They had a pain at that moment that they had to solve. And that's why they signed up. Whereas the people, I was trying to sell them prevention and how to prevent this problem in real estate. And a lot of people just weren't seeing the value in it. But if they had that problem, those were the people that were signing up. So yeah, it was a challenge.
Yeah. Excellent. What about now, Julie? What do you do now to grow your business?
Well, I just launched a new book. So books are a big part. I am a writer at heart. And it's before we got on the line, we were talking about the question, what would you do if money wasn't the goal in what you were doing for a living? And for me, it's writing. I write, and I love to write, and I always have. But at the same time, it has the added bonus of being a fantastic way to market and build your brand. And my first book was in real estate, and my newest book is around basically what we've been talking about, which is building your brand so people come to you and you don't have to do the sales for them. So that's really one of the big things that I do is write, and I write for other people and I write for myself, but I also do enjoy doing videos.
Excellent. So tell us a bit more about the book. The book's called The Brand New You.
New Brand You.
The New Brand You. Sorry. Yeah, The New Brand New, and it is available on Amazon as we speak by Julie Broad. But give us an overview of the book, please, Julie.
Yeah, you bet. It's really about building yourself up to be that trusted and known expert. And I take a slightly different perspective, because a lot of people, when they talk branding, they focus on websites and logos and mission statements. And for me, that's a vehicle to communicate your brand. Your brand, especially when we're talking personal branding, although I'll argue that the personal brand of the person in charge of a company ultimately drives the corporate brand too. But your personal brand, to me, is really about your connection to the people that you can help. And so my book really walks you through getting connected to yourself so that you can present yourself in a way that other people are going to connect with. So I talk a lot about communication. A lot of people make a lot of mistakes when they communicate that basically make their words absolutely meaningless. Just simple body language things or voice tone, things like that they're not aware of. And it is completely eroding their message. They can say the exact right things and get it all wrong. So I talk about that, as well as get into some of the things that we've touched on, doing videos, writing, and even giving talks. These are all fantastic ways, very cheap, sometimes free, ways to get your message out there. And they're incredibly powerful to be seen as that expert and to grow businesses or even get jobs. It's a great way to get yourself known out there so that people approach you for job offers too.
Yeah. That's interesting what you said about, like, they say words that are meaningless. Could you give us an example of what you mean by that, Julie?
Yeah, I had one of my favorite examples. I taught a workshop, and it was for raising money. And this woman came up to me at the end of it, and she said, "Oh, I'm doing it." She goes, "I finally know why I haven't been getting promoted." And she explained to me that she'd been passed over for promotion in her company 3 times. And this last time was really upsetting for her because she was by far the most experienced and she should have got the job as far as she was concerned. And when she asked her boss why she got passed over for the job, he said, "Well, people don't think you know what you're talking about." That was all the feedback she got, was people don't think you know what you're talking about. And yet she's very experienced and is very qualified and does know what she's talking about. But what she was doing was, instead of saying something like, "The supplier we should go with is Joe Sawyer," she was saying, "The supplier we should go with is Joe Sawyer." And every sentence was ended with her voice inflecting upwards, which makes it sound like she's asking instead of telling. Yeah. And it's a small thing, but it's something that we picked up on a while ago with people raising money. And so we were teaching it in our workshop for her partners to listen to this. And they caught it. And so now she understood why people didn't think she knew what she was talking about. So little things like that have an enormous impact on the messages when you're speaking.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, that example. And in the book, I know that you talk about things like your online presence. Could you give us an example there when you say online presence and what Google is saying about you?
Yeah, Google. So this is kind of fun, and I actually have because it is a little bit more in depth than we really have time to get into. I have a free download that people can get if they want.
Oh, awesome.
And it's called the Google Game Plan. So they can go to havemoreinfluence.com/Google Game Plan, and no spaces in that. And I can make sure you guys have the link. But that's where they can get the Google Game Plan. But basically, my perspective on this is already we're all being Googled. Before we chatted, you probably Googled me, I Googled you, and in business, that's basically what's happening. People are typing your name into Google all the time. But here's the piece that people might not be cluing into, is technology is coming to the point where they don't even need to know your name. They're going to be able to Google you on site. just Apple earlier this year announced that they bought body language software as well as facial recognition software, and Google Glass, for their Google Glass product, they've been working on this for a while as well. So when those things get a little less nerdy looking and people are wearing them more often, they can be taking pictures of you and basically doing an image lookup that will Google you when you walk in the room. So it's not going to get less important what's showing up in the Google search results. It's going to get more important. So you want to make sure that what is showing up when your name gets Googled is something that you want to show up, and it's reflective of the brand and the message that you're putting out there in the market.
Wow, yeah.
Sorry, can you remind us again where we can get that?
Oh, yes. It's at havemoreinfluence.com, and then it's / Google Game Plan, and that's no spaces.
Brilliant. Great stuff. And Julie, what about influencers? What's the best piece of advice you've been given from a mentor or someone you learn from?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, one of the pieces, my grandpa, it's from my grandpa, who was a serial entrepreneur. He had so many businesses, I actually don't even know all of them. Things from gravel trucks to real estate as well. He did all kinds of things. But he always said to me, make sure you're making money when you sleep. That was one thing he always said to me, because, if you don't want to trade hours for dollars all the time. It's okay to do it once in a while, but for the most part, my grandpa was a big advocate of money while you sleep, which is probably one of the reasons why I liked real estate, because I can be doing a lot of things, and tenants are still paying down my mortgage, and I'm still usually enjoying some sort of an uplift in that property. So. That was one big influence. The other big influence really came from a guy named, his pen name is Michael Masterson. His real name is Mark Ford. And for years I read his newsletter every single day. And ultimately what I got from him was he was an introverted writer who ran several multi-million-dollar businesses, but he used his writing to build those businesses. And in those early days when I was kind of expanding and leaving my career, that was a big influence for me, because I realized that this thing that I loved to do could also be a big part of what I can do to grow my businesses and get my name out there.
Excellent. And what did you say his name was? Sorry, Julie?
Oh, his pen name is Michael Masterson, so that would be the best way to find him.
Michael Masterson, you said?
Yeah, Michael Masterson.
Excellent. Thank you. That's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And, you earlier you gave us that site, havemoreinfluence.com / Google Game Plan. What about listeners listening to you now? Where can listeners find out more about you? Go to find out more about you.
Probably the website havemoreinfluence.com, and that will direct you to YouTube and a lot of my articles and books and things like that. So that's probably the most central place to connect with me. And then they can reach out to me on any social media, and I'm almost always the one that replies. Some people have people on their team, but it's almost always me that replies. So when you reach out, I'll connect with them that way.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, yeah.
Great stuff. So that's havemoreinfluence.com. Again, anyone listening to this, I recommend that you go and check out Julie. Go and watch some of the videos and buy her book as well. Brand new?
Oh, crikey. Sorry.
It's the new brand new.
Yeah.
It's funny that you keep saying it's the I don't even want to say it now, the brand new, whatever. You keep saying the title wrong, but that was actually what the title was going to be originally, so it's funny.
Right, let me repeat. The new brand new by Julie Broad. But on a serious note, if you want to become the go-to person in your particular niche, this is the kind of book you need to read and implement into your business, and really understand that the effective communication mistakes that can dilute your message. But once you get this right, it will literally transform your business. So go and get the new brand you.
Excellent. Thank you.
No, at all. Seriously, that's on Amazon. That's better than Amazon.
Julie, again, thanks for coming on the show. Really enjoyed hearing what your views on things and what you have to say about the industry. It's been thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It was fun, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julie.
I will speak with you soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.
www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.